MAID is providing a platform for hardworking people of the Niger Delta to achieve their dreams.
Okay, MAID is a program. It stands for Markets in the Niger Delta. That was started as a result of a discussion between the British government and its Department for International Development and the Nigerian federal government. I think we come under the National Planning Commission with them. And it was started because there had already been some experimental work in the Niger Delta following the amnesty to try and encourage economic development. And that had been initiated partly by a foundation called PIND. And it was as a result of the work of the PIND Foundation that the British decided to initiate the MAID program.
MAID is changing lives on a market access and enhancement basis by making it possible for the poor in the south of Nigeria to produce better non-oil products like cassava.
Cassava has a lot of capacities. You find out that cassava itself is more than gari, is more than lafun, is more than fufu, is more than the starch that some of us in this country eat. Cassava is an industrial crop.
According to the Ministry of Agriculture, Nigeria produces 45 million tons of cassava every year. That makes Nigeria the largest producer of cassava in the world. MAID intervention is intended to achieve improved access to agricultural inputs, crop protection products and fertilizer, increased access to improved varieties of cassava, link processors of high-quality cassava farms to big companies and markets to enhance income and profitability. Target for the scheme are smallholder cassava farm groups and SMEs. MAID is driving inclusive economic growth in South Nigeria through a quiet revolution of the value chain, such as palm oil, fisheries, household poultry, and agricultural inputs.
When did you get this one? This morning? Okay, that's good. So you attended our training program? For yesterday when you come at our school now?
Yes, ma'am.
So what thing you learn where you like about that thing where we bring, that smoking king?
I think I tell you that the thing where we learn, I like them.
Yes.
I like them.
The general thrust of MAID's market development system hinges on changing behaviors of key market actors through promotion of best management practice, provision of incentives in access to finance and appropriate affordable technology, building partnerships, aligning poor farmers with richer ones via voluntary clustering to share links to downstream markets and create synergies between smallholders and large estate plantations.
When the program was first conceived and planned, it would have been just slightly harder to answer that question, because one would say, well, if Nigeria was doing so well out of oil, why would you want to rush around doing other things? But actually, the answer then was already clear, that ordinary people in the Delta, although it was the area with the oil and the gas, did not really benefit much from the income from oil and gas, and that more broad economic development was needed. However, since you now ask this question at a time when the price of a barrel of oil has fallen from about $110 a barrel to about 48 last time I looked at the price, and it can vary these days somewhere between as low as 30 on a bad day on the spot market up to perhaps 58, 60 maybe if we're lucky, and we can expect these kinds of figures for the next 3-4 years, then it's quite clear that not only in terms of federal government revenue, but in terms of economic development, Nigeria is from now on going to have to depend on agriculture and not on oil. And interestingly, agriculture makes a bigger contribution to the gross domestic product of Nigeria than oil and gas. And even more interestingly, it provides much more of the economic growth. So these are very good reasons for concentrating on agriculture, as well as that millions of Nigerians work in agriculture, and it's their futures we need to look at.
Gradually, the Niger Delta is shaking itself off the over-dependence on oil and growing out of the devastating effects of this on their lands, and thus a refocus of efforts and energy into the non-oil sector. Let's borrow a word of wisdom from Dr. Terry Lacey, who said, "Oil makes enemies, gas makes friends." MAID is unrelenting in implementing our vision of sustainable peace and increased stability in the heart of unrest in the Niger Delta. MAID's partnership with the Niger Delta people is already yielding results as evident in the relative peace and the significant shift from oil to non-oil sector. MAID is here to make this quiet green revolution sweep over the entire region.
But what is interesting is if you look at the history, say, of Mozambique after a terrible war, then they managed to reconnect the economy quite fast. And they made quite a lot of progress, and they did not have oil. But we need to deploy scarcer resources better, and that means in support of agriculture, in support of industrialization, and above all, build the capacity of the people to connect the nuts and bolts and the wires that make a modern economy work. If we do that, Nigeria will be fine.